Hello, TOEFL students. We have learned 7 skills for the reading part of the TOEFL test. Today, we're going to review those 7 skills. It is important that you memorize the skills and the types of questions that you will see in each, and that you remember the strategies that go for each skill, so that when you take the TOEFL test, you can identify the skill and then you know what strategies to use to find the correct answer. Number 1. The best title for this passage would be. Okay, when you see questions about the title, that means it's a Skill 1 question. So we need to follow the strategies for Skill 1, which is to read the first sentence of each paragraph. So these 2 sentences. The Mason-Dixon line is often considered by Americans to be the demarcation between the North and the South. The Mason-Dixon line was established well before the Civil War as a result of a boundary dispute between Pennsylvania and Maryland. Now let's look at the answers. Remember, for Skill 1, we're going to eliminate answers which only refer to part of the passage. And we want to look for general ideas, not specific details. A. Dividing the North and the South. This is mentioned in the first sentence, demarcation between the North and the South, but it is not mentioned in the sentence of the second paragraph. So that is referring to only part of the passage. So A is not our answer. B and C are not in either sentence that we read, so they cannot be our answer. That leaves D, the history of the Mason-Dixon line. That is in both of these sentences. Both of these sentences talked about history and talked about the Mason-Dixon line. So D is our answer. Number 2. Look at the word it in paragraph 1. Click on the word or phrase that it refers to. Okay, this is talking about a pronoun, the word it. So that means it's Skill 5. So we need to follow the strategies for Skill 5. First, we read the sentence with the pronoun. It is, in reality, the boundary that separates the state of Pennsylvania from Maryland and parts of West Virginia. Now, we need to look at the sentences before this sentence for nouns that agree with the pronoun. It is a singular pronoun, so we're going to look for singular nouns. Then we read the sentence again and replace the pronoun with the noun to see if the sentence makes sense. So let's look at this sentence and look for singular nouns. There's the South, so let's read it in the sentence. The South is, in reality, the boundary that separates the state of Pennsylvania from Maryland. No, that does not make sense. South is not a boundary that separates 2 states. So the same thing with North. This is a singular noun, but it doesn't make sense. Okay, we see the noun Americans, but this is plural, and our pronoun is singular. Here, The Mason-Dixon line is a singular noun. So let's read it in the sentence to see if it makes sense. The Mason-Dixon line is, in reality, the boundary that separates the state of Pennsylvania from Maryland and parts of West Virginia. Yes, that makes sense. So this is our answer. Question number 4. It can be inferred from the passage that before the Civil War. Okay, when you see the word inferred, then it's going to be a Skill 6 question. So let's look at the strategies for Skill 6. For Skill 6, we need to identify key words in the question. In this question, it's before the Civil War. Now, we should look in the passage for these words or synonyms for these words. Look, it says prior to the Civil War. Prior to is a synonym for before. Now we need to read this part of the passage. Prior to the Civil War, the southern boundary of Pennsylvania separated the non-slave states to the north from the slave states to the south. Now let's look at the answers. A. Pennsylvania was south of the Mason-Dixon line. No, that is not true. It said the line was on the southern boundary of Pennsylvania. B. Pennsylvania was a non-slave state. Yes, it says Pennsylvania, the line on the south of Pennsylvania, separated the non-slave states to the north from the slave states to the south. So B is our answer. Number 5. The passage states all of the following about Mason and Dixon except that. Okay, we see the word except here. This is a Skill 4 question. The strategies for Skill 4 are to remember that 3 of the answers are true. Find the answers that are true using the strategies for Skill 3 and then choose the answer that isn't in the passage. So let's try to find the answers in the passage. So our key words are Mason and Dixon. We can see them right here, Charles Mason and Jeremiah Dixon. Now let's look for the answers around that area. A. They came from England. Look, here it says 2 English astronomers. So that is true, and it is not our answer. B. They worked as astronomers. We just read that, so that is also true and not the answer. C. They caused the boundary dispute between Pennsylvania and Maryland. No, it does not say that. It says there was a boundary dispute and they were called to the area. Now let's look at D. They surveyed the area of the boundary between Pennsylvania and Maryland. Yes, that is right here. They were called to survey the area and mark the boundary between the 2 states. So, our answer is C, because this is the only thing that is not stated in the passage. Number 6. The passage indicates that the Mason-Dixon line was identified with Okay, so it says the passage indicates that. That is a skill 3 question. So we need to follow the strategies for skill 3. So our keywords here are Mason-Dixon line and identified with. So now let's look in the passage for these words or synonyms of these words. Here we have the boundary was marked with. Was marked can be a synonym for identified with. So let's read this part right here. The boundary was marked with stones, many of which remain to this day. So our answer has a restatement. Which one of these is a restatement for the word stones? A, pieces of rock. Stones are pieces of rocks. So the answer is A. Number 8. The paragraph following the passage most probably discusses. Okay, this is a Skill 7 question. So when we see a Skill 7 question that says following, we need to read the last sentence of the paragraph. Here it is. The survey was completed in 1767, and the boundary was marked with stones, many of which remain to this day. Okay, for Skill 7 questions, we want an answer that is mentioned in the sentence, but not discussed in the passage. Look, A, C, and D. None of these are in the last sentence. So they cannot be our answer. That means B, the Mason-Dixon line, today is a synonym for to this day. B is our answer. Your assignment for today has questions from skills 1 through 7. So it is very important that you first identify the skill for each question. You need to do this before you start looking for the answer, because once you find the skill, you know what strategies to use to get the correct answer. So make sure that the first thing you do is to identify which skill the question is, and then follow the strategies for that skill.